welcome back. It has been a hot minute. When I watch some podcasters, I can tell that they're like they don't have any cuts in their videos. Like they just hit record and then they basically do it in one take. And I don't know what superpower that is, but I definitely do not have it. I basically have to say everything that I say here about 3 or 4 times because I just feel awkward about it and I feel like the delivery was wrong and so I have to redo it. Or I just lose track of my sentence midway through. So yeah, to those people, just congratulations for being articulate enough to be able to sort of film yourself unedited. Yeah, but I don't have that skill, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't even know when was the last time that I hit publish on a video. Don't know how many months it's been. It's been a good few. I have a lot to share in terms of knitting today. I've been knitting and sewing a lot consistently since we last spoke. And I've actually been doing quite a lot of sewing, more than usual, so I definitely want to update you on that. I'm not going to talk about that in this video because I think there's just too much to talk about. I find that anything to do with sewing doesn't do particularly well for me on this channel, because I think you're all primarily knitters, which makes sense since this is primarily a knitting channel. But yeah, I think probably to my own detriment, I'm going to share this in a share of my sewing updates in a separate recap because there's a lot of those. But I do also have a fair amount of knitty updates, things I've been knitting on in the past couple of months over the summer. Not too many finished objects. I haven't finished that much, but I have started a lot or continued a lot or worked on a lot. So yeah. Anyway, it's really good to be back. Thank you for bearing with me. I will chat a bit about what's been going on in my life, maybe probably at the end of the video, because I'm sure primarily most of you are here for knitting, and as right you should be. So yeah, if you're interested in that, feel free to stay to the end. But yeah, before I start rambling too much, let's just get into it. And before I forget, because I always forget, hi, my name is Nadia. I knit and sew and do various hobbies, and I like to talk about them for lack of other people in my life to talk about them too, and I do that on this channel. So if you're new here, you're very welcome. This is my dog. She's currently smelling my arm. As you do, her name's Okami. Right, so yes, first finished piece is quite obviously what I'm wearing. I finished the Dagmar jacket, which I think I started in January, beginning of this year, and have been slogging away at for a while. It was a long project, but I also ran out of yarn midway through, so I had to sort of take an extended break. Yeah, pretty bog standard Dagmar jacket. This is knit in woolly knit, British wool, 4-ply in the colour Aran Nep, held double, with a strand of Drops Flora in an off-white colour. So 3 strands of, I'd say a light fingering, held together on 4.5mm needles. So a really, really tight gauge, which I have to say I love. I've been wearing it a lot and loving it a lot, and I think it's primarily because of the quite dense gauge. I just quite like that, the structure that it gives in the knit. And yeah, I ran out of the British wool 4-ply because I had it on a cone. I was holding it double, it's cables, so you know there's just a lot of scrunchiness, so it eats a lot of yarn. And thankfully, somebody who follows me or watches me on here was able to save me with some leftovers, and I'm so very grateful. I was able to contact her on Instagram and sort a delivery, and yeah, it was just more than enough yarn that I needed, and it was the perfect thing to finish this project. And I just, I didn't want to buy a whole other cone that I'm then not going to use. So yeah, thank you. You know who you are. Thank you. Yeah, I was able to finish this project. I think when I left off I was maybe on the body and I hadn't done the sleeves. The sleeves were relatively quick. I think I said at some point I was going to change the sleeve pattern. I didn't. I think I actually probably said this in my last video. I think you might know this. But all I did was just I moved the cables around. I think a lot of people did this on Ravelry, where you actually, like, I feel like this yarn combination, now that it's aged a bit, it's quite, not like fluffy, but it's quite, it's got like a very light halo. Yeah, I know you matched the cardigan. This is very intense. She's always liked licking ears, but ever since I got my second and third piercings done, and ever since then she's really quite enjoyed licking those. So, sorry, it's probably TMI. The central, what am I talking about? Okay, yeah, the shoulder line I lined up with the second little mini braid here, because I think if you look at the original pattern photos for the Dagmar, it looks a bit, the pattern, the way it's done, it just looks a bit like lopsided, and it doesn't seem like the shoulder pickup has like a lot of continuity with the rest of the jumper. I think, oh god, I really have to pull this out of the depths of my memory. I think I did a modified pickup for the sleeves. Another really common complaint for the Dagmar is these like very wide sleeves that are wider than the opening that they have. I'd already modified it to include, you can barely see, I don't think you can see this at all. I'd already modified it to include this sort of 4-stitch cable on the shoulder before you pick up, so like included in the body. So it has a lot less moss stitch than in the original, and I think that kind of helps it with the structure. But I also picked up maybe like 75% of the stitches that Petite Knit asks you to pick up. So because I just seen all of the complaints and it just seemed like way too big of a stitch count. So I just kind of did my own thing. I obviously modified the chart, but just like sort of removed the moss stitch from the chart and then moved it around. But yeah, otherwise it's unedited. She's done. Added buttons. I love it. I love the length. I don't usually go for a cropped length, but I think in a cardigan that I will tend to wear with dresses and skirts, not today, but just generally with skirts, it's a perfect, not too cropped where it's like uncomfortable, like just feels like you finished the jumper early, but it's sort of the perfect level where it's not straight hitting your hips, if that makes sense. I need to probably write down like what length that is so that I can refer to it in other jumpers. I've never really had like a perfect length for me, but yeah, I tend to under knit in terms of length. So yeah, it's a good high. The only thing, I've been wearing it loads, basically been living in it. It's like the only knit I want to be. I even brought it on like 2 different trips in the summer to hot places because it's just like the only knit I want to be wearing, and if it gets cold at night I want to be wearing this. I think it's like that perfect level of heritage, like traditional Aran cabled cardigan. Wearing it in Ireland, I think you get like a lot of like recognition where people will be like, oh, is that an Aran knit? Or it's like quite a nice Aran knit. You know, there are some that can lean sort of less fashionable, and I feel like this one is really traditional, and I think it's to do with like the color, and it's not too much that yellowy white. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I think it's just like a very good Aran knit, even though it's not knit in is it knit in an Aran? Yeah, I guess 3 strands of fingering would be an Aran. But yeah, the only thing I'm a little bit unhappy about is when I think I just maybe picked up too many stitches on the ribbing because it flares slightly, and I followed pretty much exactly the pickup rate in the pattern. It's probably something to do with gauge, but yeah, I don't like, I can sort of tell, I can notice the flaring And I feel like I keep finding this recently with like cardigan ribbing, where I'm like, it's really hard to get the balance right, because if you do it too tight, it kind of like all scrunches up. So if I were to redo it, I'd also have to redo the collar. So I'm going to try first with an elastic to see if I can just tighten. It's only slight, so just tighten it up like a tiny bit. But if it continues bothering me, I will redo it. I think this is like a forever cardigan for me, so I'm perfectly happy to sort of spend the time into making it exactly what I want it to be. And everything else, all the other details like the sleeve length, like everything, I just love. So I think it's a winner. Yeah, this like I think it's the British wool. Just has this very subtle halo when it. Oh, I just knocked you, didn't I? Yeah, I think the British wool has this very subtle halo when it wears, which is super lovely. And yeah, I just love rustic yarn. I just love it so much. And I really enjoyed knitting it. So like the smell of it whilst I was knitting it, the tactileness of that. Unrelated, but going through my stash recently, I've never really been one to de-stash, because I get very like hung up on like, oh, well, I could do this with this. But I just think when there are such lovely yarns to work with, I would rather be working with those than something that's more synthetic or like more commercial than this lovely rusticness. Anyway, yeah, probably tied for my favorite knit of the year with my Simone Rocha cardigan. And speaking of Simone Rocha, I am still probably toying with the idea of maybe putting a few natural pearls, maybe here or there inside the cables. I think maybe it might make it a little bit too elevated, like a little bit too formal to wear all the time, which sometimes I find with my Simone Rocha cardigan. I'm talking as if you know everything about my life. I will link projects and things that I'm talking about if you've not seen or heard what I'm talking about. But Simone Rocha is an Irish designer that I'm very, very inspired by, and I've made one cardigan so far, completely inspired by one of her pieces. I'm currently in the process of knitting another, and she does a lot of these like Aran cable knits with, you know, embellishments or ribbons or things like that. And I think that maybe adding just a few natural pearls sort of sewn into the cardigan somewhere could be sort of a nice way to really tie this knit to my style. In terms of finished pieces, I don't actually have that many more that I can talk about. Do I? This is the only garment thing for me that I finished. I did knit two baby items that I finished and have gifted, so I don't have them to show. I knit this adorable colorwork cardigan for my niece, who was born this year over the summer in May. This is the Ellen's cardigan by Petite Knit. Basically, when it comes to kids patterns, I usually either look at Petite Knit, who has a million children, or Knitting for Olive, whose patterns are just adorable. This is an Ellen's cardigan, which I think is like originally it has pockets and is knit with like a strand of fingering and a mohair. This is a DK. It's a DK cotton merino that I used. It's the wool and the woolly, no. We Are Knitters is the We Are Knitters mixed wool. Wanted something sort of light and had with some wool content, still natural fibers, but that could probably be used in like spring and autumn. And I think I made the 3 to 6 month size, but usually my gauge is quite big, so I think it will probably fit her for a bit longer. It's just a raglan cardigan. That's why I picked that pattern, because it was a DK weight raglan cardigan. I find it's quite hard to find DK weight patterns for babies. And I know why. Like, I think the proportions they just look better on fingering weight on a smaller piece than in a DK. I think it can look quite chunky, but at the same time, sometimes I just don't want to knit something in fingering weight for somebody that's not going to be able to wear it for more than 3 months before they outgrow it. So the main color, is that We Are Knitters. The flowers are done in, I think one of them's like a superwash merino, and then the other one is like a linen blend, which in retrospect was, yeah, the red is like a linen blend. Really poor choice. It didn't have that like elasticity and the memory that you need for color work. And I found that doing sort of floats and making sure that the floats were long enough for it to not fit weird was really quite difficult in that particular yarn. So yeah, I wouldn't do that again. It's very loosely based off of a cardigan that I saw when I was in Porto, which I can throw up on the screen, that actually me and my sister saw whilst we were in Porto, and she said that she liked, so I was like, I can make that, that's fine. The jumper itself, the cardigan itself that she saw was actually in a really beautiful knitting shop in Porto, and it wasn't that expensive. Probably she should have just bought that instead of instead of me taking many months to make it. But I think it's cute. There are a lot of ends to weave in, which was kind of annoying. The ribbing was done whilst knitting the rest of the body, so that was very, very easy. And yeah, just generally it was like a little bite-sized colour work project, which is always fun. Secondly, I made the fern leggings, I think they're called. The Knitting for Olive fern leggings. I've wanted to knit these for so long, like basically like since I discovered Knitting for Olive, which is like a long, long, long time ago. And I didn't really have anyone to knit them for. They're kind of finicky. It's kind of hard to figure out what yarn to make them in, but they're just so cute. Like I want a pair of these. I want an adult pair of these that are just sort of like long tights, like in a sock yarn or something. That I just think they're so cute. And I made these in, I think it's like a cone of woolly knit merino that I have. That for merino I think is quite scratchy. It's not the softest merino in the world. But I thought maybe that would be quite good because, I don't know, babies, bum, friction, I just felt like pilling was just going to be an issue. So maybe not the softest yarn is probably the best thing. And yeah, these knit up relatively quickly. I wouldn't say they were super quick, but it was kind of like knitting maybe 2 socks. The construction was very easy. You could knit like one leg bottom up, another leg bottom up, and then you just join, you do a gusset, and then you just knit in the round and then turn it over and you make a little drawstring, and like the whole thing is very, very straightforward. So yeah, do consider if you're knitting for babies. Yeah, they're so cute. I think Anna from ATP Atelier made these recently, and I was like, yes girl, yeah, that's the pattern. This is the baby pattern that's so cute. And I think these I made in the 9-month size. Hi. What is this behavior? The only other things that I finished since the last time I saw you are 2 orphaned socks. They were part of shame, internal shame. The cal that I started and then basically properly abandoned when I went on my little break. Yes, I was organising the Freaky Girl sock cal, which involved a couple of sort of self-drafted patterns, and just generally knitting along on some strange socks. I basically ghosted everyone. I really apologise if you were sort of participating in it or planning to participate or just following along. Yeah, I'm very super sorry. Definitely just the worst cal knit along. Sorry for those not annoyed by people using acronyms all the time. Just the worst knit along runner in the world. Yeah, I'm very, very sorry. I did finish 2 socks, which I think if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen there. A pair of tabby socks, which I think I hadn't finished on the podcast the last time I spoke, but maybe I had. But yeah, just a finished pair of tabby socks, just one. So obviously I haven't worn them. This is Life in the Long Grass sock yarn that I think I've referred to a bunch of times. So yeah. And then I also very obsessedly self-drafted this sort of cut out whole sock, sort of emulating, again, funnily enough, a Simone Rocha pair of socks that has like a big cutout in this location. And I did upload what I did, like the recipe, into a Google Doc, which is free and available if you wanted to sort of follow along and knit these. And I was also planning to knit the same pair of socks in a DK Wake sock yarn for a bit of variety. So you'd have it in both weights. This yarn, this is Paton. Cammy, you're sitting on all of my yarn. Okay, I don't know where it is. It's Paton's Croy. The Americans are going to laugh at my pronunciation. This is Paton's Croy sock yarn. It's like sort of this like variegated grey, blue, purpley, kind of whitey color. It's like very subtly variegated, and it's quite a rough sock yarn, and it's quite a thick fingering weight. Like it's like really quite thick. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think they'll probably wear well, but I'm not 100% sure that I love them. And yeah, it's a sock with a hole that I achieved by casting off at the top here, actually doing a very long sock leg. This is quite a long leg. Casting off the 2 stitches like sort of at the top here, and then knitting flat and decreasing. Actually, I think because I was knitting flat, I was decreasing and increasing progressively along the sock, whilst at the same time doing the heel. And because it's a short row heel, by the time I get to the heel point, I just stop doing whatever I'm doing here and just work the heel and then come back to it. I don't know how I would achieve that in like a heel flap and gusset. I don't know. I'm sure it's possible doing a heel flap and gusset flat. Anyway, it's the sock with a hole. Oh yeah, and then I finished it with an I-cord at the end. I think the result on the foot, it's a little bit baggy. I think probably by virtue of this sock yarn being quite thick, I think probably my stitch counts were quite high. But I did really have to increase the stitch counts for the calf bit. For this to fit over my leg, I needed to increase the stitches on the top there and then decrease them later because otherwise it wasn't going up. But the rest of the sock is quite loose, so yeah, I'd love to do this again in another color at some point, but maybe we'll just lay the Cal dreams to rest for now, and maybe once I've knit the other socks and sort of worked on that pattern a bit, then maybe I'll redo this knit along at a later date. Yeah, again, really sorry. Not my best hour, I will admit. That's it on finished pieces. I have a lot more works in progress, which honestly I think are like the most interesting part of knitting podcasts, and hopefully you agree because I have quite a few of them. I was just sort of picking up and putting down a lot of things over the summer. Started a few things that I haven't finished or like continued on. And yeah, I've just been kind of bouncing a lot. I was craving lots of stockinette, which I did for a couple of these projects, and then I was really craving sort of like something small and interesting. So I've done quite a few baby knits like the ones you've seen, and then I also have 2 more on the needles currently. So that's what's up. Hopefully these are interesting. Just a very quick update on this jumper that I think I'd sort of presented as like mostly finished in the last podcast. For full transparency, the designer contacted me after I released the podcast and was like, oh no, it's such a shame that you did a different collar, because the collar is the best part she found about the pattern. And yeah, I think she's right. That's on me. That I think I definitely am gonna rip out this collar and redo it. I think her pickup rate, I don't know why this is stuck in my head for so long. I think her pickup rate is 9 out of 10 stitches, which I still think is quite wide, but I'm willing to give it a go. I think that maybe at some point I should stop thinking that I know better than everyone else and just do what the pattern says. Yeah, this is way too tight, I think, and I don't know what's happened. I don't know how I feel about double knit collars currently. I used to be the only type of collar that I would knit, and I didn't like anything else. I thought that just one layer was just really weird and small and tiny. But as you can see, I've been doing it a bit more. I did it for the Dagmar, I did it for a couple of cardigans recently. And yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm into it. So I don't know what's happened and like why that's changed. Maybe I've just worn too many of these hand knit jumpers that are like suffocating, and just not getting that sort of tension right. So yeah, I'm gonna redo this, the collar at least, and try her pickup rate, and yeah, just acknowledge that I don't know what I'm doing. And then I was like, this has been stored away for a while. I was looking at the bind off. I just did some like very quick bind off, I think, maybe because I'd run out of yarn and didn't want to get another ball. I think I knew that it was too, I don't know, I think I started doing an Italian bind off and then I ran out of yarn and then I started doing another one just to fit. I have no idea what happened with this bind off, but I clearly need to redo it. And I know that I also need to add length to this jumper because it was too short. And I think because I've no idea what I did with the bind off, probably what I'll end up doing is just ripping. I think I said that I was gonna maybe cut and add some stockinette, but I'm not gonna do that because in my experience, cutting and then grafting back on actually just takes longer than just ripping back. So I'm gonna commit to my aversion to ripping back. I'm just gonna rip back the ribbing, do some more stockinette, and then do the ribbing again. Because I have to rip back this bind off anyway, so I might as well. Do I remember the details of what this jumper is? It's drops Lima and drops Kid Silk in navy that I had in stash anyway. And then the green is very special. It's not that special, but I just really like it. It's West Yorkshire Spinners BFL, yeah, in Fellside. And if you've seen my previous videos, we had a big dilemma on which mohair to hold with this, and it ended up being the Rowan Kid Silk Haze in. It's a very romantic colour. I like something to do with apples, something green, it's like something green. Your girl's got good memory off the top of her head. You gotta give her that. You gotta give her that. Anyway, so that's the update on this jumper. I think I'm emulating some jumper I saw on Pinterest. And I think I just wanted something stripy in my wardrobe. I don't tend to knit stripes. I tend to like wearing stripes. I don't tend to knit stripes, which is a mistake because stripes are good. Except when you don't know how to carry yarn or do things with stripes, in which case this happens. Nobody knows what that is. I think I talked about it last time. Yeah, anyway, that's the update. It's still a whip is the update. Let's move on to more summery whips. I don't remember the name of this pattern either. Oh dear, okay. Is it something to do with a spider? Yes, I believe it's a Korean designer. Anyway, it's new for me because I just unfortunately tend to seem to only want to knit petite knit, and my favorite things knitwear. They're like my comfort pattern designers, and yeah, I have a bad habit of not really looking elsewhere. And so yeah, so I'm glad that I branched out a bit. I haven't really. It's a dress. It's a dress on yarn that's not super pleasing to work with. So I'm using, what is this? This is some yarn that I got off of Vinted. I think I got 4 of these cones for like denner, so they were very reasonable. This is the Rowan denim lace. It's essentially just a very thin cotton yarn in this kind of like denim-y color. It's like a very grey blue, kind of almost black color, and it's very lightly nepped. Like there's some white kind of neps running throughout it. I think I filmed a yarn haul that I never posted, so I don't know if I've talked about this publicly before. But yeah, I just don't know really what one does with this yarn. I feel like it's a very strange product. I've not really seen anything like it. It's like a cone, but it's a very skinny cone, like very, like not a lot of yarn on it. 50 grams, 400 meters, standard lace weight, but like a lace weight cotton. If you know what people do with this, like I haven't seen any other yarn producers do something like this. So yeah, I think it's just interesting. I'm like, why does this exist? And I think new, it's like relatively expensive per skein. Anyway, I had 4 of them. So 2 times 800 meters, 1600 meters. Yeah, I had quite a lot of meterage. So I'm holding it double, which I may actually run out of yarn at some point. Double on a 5mm needle, which is what's specified in the pattern. I think the sample's knitted in maybe 1 strand of mohair or maybe 1 strand of some kind of lace. It's meant to be quite airy. I did think the cottons, I don't know, just 1 strand of it felt maybe a little bit too thin on 5 mils, so I did 2 strands, and I think it's giving that kind of like loosey-goosey summer fabric that I wanted anyway. This is the back. Yeah, this is where I started. It's obviously top down, and it's the back, and it has sort of 2 panels, and then you knit at some point, you knit stripes, and then this will become at some point the button band because it's buttoned. It's a long dress that's buttoned down the front, and just knit in this like one big panel back and forth. And the fact that it's and it has this lace pattern, which is very minimalist. I think it's like a very sporadic yarn over, knit 2 together kind of lace pattern. The reason I haven't gotten very far with it is because it's back and forth. It's back and forth on kind of like an annoying yarn combination. It's, yeah, like cotton, not super pleasing, small yarn on big needles, 2 strands, so like you have to kind of really pay attention to which strands you're picking up. I did switch to bamboo. I was using it with the Chiagu mini set that I bought recently, and I just found that like the plant-based yarn and the metal needles was just not doing it for me. So yeah, I switched to bamboo, and that's slightly better. But yeah, as you can see, I haven't made a lot of progress on this. It's supposed to be a dress. I mean, I do know that obviously with weight it will stretch, so I'm not going to need to make it as long potentially as I think it will need to be. But yeah, I'm still a long way away. And yeah, obviously it's see-through. For me, it's intended to be worn over something in the summer. So, and now it's not summer anymore. So this is on hold. This tends to happen with all of my summer projects, is that they all become on hold because I don't finish them, and I'm not motivated to finish them when it gets cold. So very quick update. This is a really old work in progress. This is an Oslo or a Stockholm, I can't remember. An Oslo is one of the petite knit patterns that are really, really similar, like the same gauge and like only really differ in yarn. Just like a drop shoulder. I don't think it's a drop shoulder if you work the shaping on the neck. Maybe it is. You knit essentially a rectangle to start on the back piece, and then you pick up and then you shape the neck. I don't know what that's called. Wow, I didn't realize I'd done the collar for this. Okay, that's cool. That means I can try it on. Clearly I haven't woven in the ends. Yeah, I think when anyone last saw this, it was just the yoke and I hadn't joined under the sleeves. Yeah, I don't think I'd done any of that. And then I just needed some stockinette, so I did the whole body. This is basically intending to be kind of like a cumulus blouse O-neck with I-cord finishing. So I've done that along the neck and then also along the body. This is curling loads, so I'm going to need to block that. And yeah, I just need to do the sleeves. But yeah, I couldn't find the yarn, missing the third ball of this, third skein of this for a long time, so I haven't started the sleeves, but I found it now, so at some point I will do the sleeves. This isn't very like a big motivation project for me. It's yarn that I think in retrospect maybe was a mistake. I'm not like super excited about it. It's Zakami Yarn's Natural Fluff Fingering in the color Boomy. Booyah, look at that memory. And it was my first like full sweater quantity of like a hand-dyed yarn. And I was horrendously knit-fluenced by Knitting Traditions, who knit a jumper in this exact yarn and color. And I don't know, I got obsessed with it. I had to have it. And then now that I have it, I'm like, I feel like I could have picked something like a better color. I don't know if this color is like a me. Anyway, I'm going to finish it. And then, but I've gone this far. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to see if I wear it. And yeah, we'll take it from there. All of my knit bags are very unglamorous shoe or bag dust bags, all of them basically. This is, yeah, another bag one. You've never seen this before. I think I talked about it. Yeah, I talked about the plan on in my last plans video. And actually, if I look back at that plans video, I think I was pretty consistent with what like I said I was gonna knit and then what I ended up knitting. It's pretty good. Maybe a little bit less interesting for you. This is a dress, but you couldn't tell. This is a dress that is actually what pattern is it? This is actually the Holger cardigan pattern, for the only reason being that I couldn't easily find a pattern that I owned that was a DK weight drop shoulder jumper. And I'm sure probably there's a knitting book that I own that has that pattern in it, but I don't know, I wanted the gauge to be right. I didn't want to work on like 3.5mm needles. And I kind of knew that I was going to knit the Holger. Is it Holger? No, Holger's the baby one. Olga? Yeah, it's the Olga jacket. I kind of knew I was going to knit the Olga jacket at some point. So I was just like, let's just buy the pattern and like not split or join and just make it into a jumper. And yeah, I wanted something relatively oversized, but not crazy amounts. Having said that, I couldn't for the life of you tell you what size I knit this in. Absolutely not a clue. This is the problem with like starting projects and like not taking any notes and then abandoning them for a long time. Anyway, this is supposed to be, that's why it's so long. I've basically started this and done the whole body since the last time I saw you. This is supposed to be a very long short sleeve dress in a mohair and a fingering weight, which you may ask, what weather does one wear that in? And I answer, I do not know, but it's something I wanted. It's something I've wanted for a long time. The yarn is the issue though, because, do I have a bowl in here? Yeah, it's Drops Kid Silk, because clearly that's the only mohair I use. And then it's this vintage discontinued yarn that I picked up in a charity shop. It's the Jaeger wool silk, so merino wool and real silk. Really nice yarn. Very like lustrous, really like the color. And these are 20 gram, so weird, 20 gram poles. And it doesn't say, oh yeah, 60% wool, 40% silk. And it doesn't say the yardage on it, but I think they're like somewhere between 90 to 100 meters. So very, very small yardage. And I had 10 of them. And my delusional ass thought that I could make a full length dress, t-shirt dress, with 1,000 meters of fingering weight held with a mohair. Obviously, I can't do that. So I'm running out. I haven't run out because I haven't done the sleeves, but I'm running out. At some point, I was like, no, I really need this wool, like this specific wool, and so I went a little bit like psychotic and went on the Ravelry page for the wool, and then looked in people's stashes, and then started emailing people that seemed to have this color available in their stash still. Not emailing them, just like literally messaging them on Ravelry. But most people never replied, because of course they didn't, because I don't know about you, but I never check my Ravelry messages. And I did talk to a few people in Canada that were maybe willing to send some of their leftover skeins of this yarn to me. Bearing in mind that like Canada, I think you guys have the most expensive shipping known to man. Like, just crazy. I thought we were bad in Ireland in terms of like domestic shipping costs, but you guys, whew. Also, I was like kind of thinking about it, and I was like, they were at €1 a ball. I paid €10 for 1,000 meters. Am I really going to pay like probably like €80 for minimum, you know, for the skein plus the shipping, etc., for maybe like 500, 600 meters of it? No, that's insane. Like, what was something that was supposed to be like a craft, like a thrifty project? That's mental. So yeah, anyway, this is where I'm at. The length is currently slightly longer than just like a regular jumper length. My plan is, I'm almost done with this sleeve, like obviously short sleeve. I don't know how I'm going to finish it. I don't want to do rib. So maybe double folded. Yeah, maybe. I'll do the other sleeve. So this is what I've used on that sleeve so far. I think I have enough to finish with it. And I have another ball. It's the one I showed you. I don't know where it's gone. To do the other sleeve, and whatever's left over, I'll do the collar with. And then I think I'm just going to be realistic and not try and buy some more of this yarn, but do some kind of like, I don't know, like kind of like acne inspired like striping. And just have the rest of the dress, have it be quite long. I don't want to like create some like kind of weird mini dress. I want it to be midi to full, and yeah, do some kind of striping or some kind of like color blocking that hopefully doesn't look like I've run out of yarn, but just looks like it's intentional. And yeah, hopefully I have enough to do that. I think I can't even add more length here. I think I don't have enough yarn. So yeah, I think this is kind of it. I haven't even tried this on yet. So whatever you see in the try on is my first reaction to this. But I just needed some stockinette and something that was really easy. So this was like after I ran out of I couldn't find the other ball of yarn for the Oslo. This is what I cast on next, and I needed just some stockinette. How are we getting on? Should we do a baby knit interlude? These are my most recent cast-ons. This is, what pattern is this? I bought a bunch of baby patterns. Yeah, just kind of hoping I'm going to get some mileage out of them with upcoming babies. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. This is the Melange sweater, baby. I think there's a junior and a baby maybe, by Petite Knit. Again, it's a sweater, not a cardigan, but yeah, this is the other way around, right? I knit a cardigan into a sweater, and this is a sweater that's a cardigan. And it's inspired by a shrimps cardigan on this adorable baby that is posted on social media publicly, so I feel kind of okay putting their face in here, but will remove if asked. Again, for my niece, that I'm making the largest size. I think it's the 12 to 18 months. I sized down quite a bit on the needles, but yeah, I think this is going to be quite long. It's also a DK weight. I'm using BC Garn Samia, which is good because it's like a wool. I think it's a merino wool, but it's also super wash, and it's quite soft. So I think it's like kind of a nice baby yarn. I did buy that new. I just felt like knitting something kind of fun and cute for my niece and having new yarn for it. So actually, where is it? These are the 3 colors. I'm on my second ball of the blue. I just bought one of the brown and then it's the pink. I think they were cute colors. And my plan is to do some kind of duplicate stitch rose motif on the brown portions. They have like sort of like embroidered roses on that cardigan. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, very, it's small. It's a baby cardigan. It's DK weight, so it knits up very quickly. That's it. That's all I have to say about it. I'm excited to see it on her, although this will be sort of like 12 to 18 months. It'll be like a latter half of the winter, maybe throw over in a UK summer, and then maybe the beginning of the autumn of the following winter. So yeah, no big rush on this, but I'm enjoying working on it. And then this is actually the only legit project bag that I own from a lovely Portuguese knitting shop. This is the Storm Sweater Baby. It's so cute, oh my god. The only thing that absolutely shocked me about this was that babies are just so long. Like, they're so long. I thought I was done after knitting this like second bit of the ribbing, like the broken rib. And then I had to knit a whole other section and then do the ribbing, which I haven't finished. It's just crazy. The babies are so long. But yeah, this is the Storm Sweater. After all that stockinette, I was craving a little bit of texture and something more intricate. So yeah, I cast this on in this very bright sort of like orange-red color. This is Filcolana Arvetta in the color Cayenne. I've had this in stash for a while. I bought it to hold with another yarn to make another red cardigan, and the color didn't work. So I have like a full sweater's quantity, but I stole a few skeins because if you have yarn in stash, you might as well use it. Yeah, it's lovely. It's very, very soft. I had no idea about Filcolana Arvetta, like how soft. Is it like a merino, partial merino with 25% polyamide? It's the type of yarn that I'm like, this is gonna pill. Like, I'm knitting with it and I'm like, 100, it's very drapey and it's very, very, very soft. So it's actually not that great, I'd say, for a cable or like faux cable jumper, because you kind of want it to be less drapey. But I mean, I'm here now. And yeah, I just had the little cute sleeves to do. I was knitting on this at knit night, and somebody asked, they were like, oh, is that going to block out? Looks a bit small for you. And I was like, no, this is literally, literally for a baby. I think I've knit so many different sizes in all of these that I'm kind of like struggling to stay on track. But I think this is the 9 to 12 months. So in like order of her being able to wear it, the jumpers, the things that I made, it'll be like the cardigan, which I finished, and then the little leggings, and then this, and then the cardigan I just showed you. So yeah, hopefully this first winter she'll be very kitted out in all of her baby wear. Okay, almost done with whips. The very last one, oh yeah, once more a dust bag. Cast on since I last spoke to you. Also mentioned in my plans video, but in a slightly different guise. This is, oh my god, it smells so sheepy. This is the Maggie cardigan by Petite Knit. Again, I'm just like a whore for Petite Knit this season. A more close fitting for me pattern, kind of like in the I think it's in the 5 centimeter positive ease range. So yeah, like definitely more fitted than most of the things I tend to knit, and it has this very beautiful set-in sleeve, contiguous, you know, they were all the rage for a while, shaping that's just very beautiful. So it's like kind of like a drop shoulder, and then you do the cap at the same time as the rest of it, and then you start doing raglan increases towards the bottom. It's a really interesting construction. It's no, I was going to say it's similar to the terrazzo sweater, but I think that's a saddle or like a partial saddle set in sleeve, where this is definitely more of like a little drop there with the pickup. Anyway, it's really nice shaping. I've yet to try this on, obviously, because I'm not very far along. I've done the yoke and I've joined at the bottom, and I've done it. It's working out relatively quickly. I thought, this being essentially a fingering weight project, that it would take a lot more time, but this yarn is more of like a fingering to sport. I don't have a new ball. This yarn is, I bought whilst in Porto. It is, actually, it's from this shop. So I'm absolutely going to butcher this name, but Oveia Negra yarn shop produced this yarn, which is called Victoria. And it's very rustic, very, I'd say like, I don't know, do I know the proper terms for yarn? No, but it's like very tightly spun, a little bit thick and thin, and full of like hay, barn, yard stuff. You can tell I think it's like local Portuguese wool. I think they also do different weights. I think this is the fingering to sport, and then they do like maybe like a DK Aran, don't quote me on that. And yeah, it's that kind of yarn that just it's like very, very thin now, but then it kind of feels like a bit oily, and is probably quite condensed right now. And then once you block it, it sort of relaxes, has like a little soft halo. Do I have? Yeah, it is. I do. I made a little swatch because you should, because I didn't know what needle size to knit it at. I'm a loose knitter generally. The pattern says 3.5. The yarn on the side of the ball, it says like anywhere between 325 and 4 millimeters. Personally, for me, 4 millimeters, this would be way, way too loose. But yeah, you can kind of see like this is the yarn. I need to hold, no, I don't see that. Okay, maybe against my hair. Yeah, the yarn blocked versus the yarn unblocked, it's like twice the density, and it almost feels like unspun. Like it's like, could I rip this relatively easy? Yeah, it's like, I think is it single ply? Very interesting yarn anyway. It kind of feels a little bit like Manchalope or some kind of unspun yarn, but it's very clearly spun. And yeah, I tried it out on a 3.5 and a 3, and I much preferred the 3 millimeter needle. So that's what I went for on a full cardigan, because I hate myself. But the fabric is really nice, and I wanted something kind of like following the lessons from this cardigan. I wanted something dense enough where I wasn't going to feel, I just noticed I prefer a denser fabric. If it's too loose or flowy, I feel like it's not very flattering. I like the jumper to kind of create the structure of my body instead of allowing the jumper to fit the shape of does that make sense? And my plan for this, I'm almost at the point where I'll need to do it, is to have large cutouts on the side, actually very similar in construction Oh, right in front of me. Okay. Very similar in construction to the sort of holy sock. I should probably just put a hand in here. You can probably see it a bit better. To the sock that I made before, with these like big open hip panels. Very similar again. God, I'm such a broken record. But to this open back cardigan by Simone Rocha. As you can see, very similar color, very similar vibe. I want to do that thing on the back and have those sloping ties. What are they like? Kind of like rib ties, but do that on each side of the hip and sort of have these open panels. But I essentially just want to create like an arch and bind off as I knit, and then later on pick up and create a ribbing that will then continue on past the edge of the, you'll see, and then you can tie it, but I'll probably leave it open and just have these little bit of like frilly cut out. Anyway, yeah, because I just can't be normal. But I've been wanting for a long time just a quite close fitting, very simple grey cardigan that's like, you know, like kind of small button up. I've wanted it in cashmere. I think this will be a good sort of proxy for that whilst having some sort of visual interest in it. And yeah, I'm just really, when Tiffany Lou of Typical Bliss was like obsessed with grey yarn and would only use that, I didn't get it. I was like, oh, grey's so boring. Why would you choose grey? And then at some point something flipped and now I'm just absolutely like obsessed with everything grey. And this kind of like warm, mottled, mid-grey with some flecks of black, and then but it's like kind of like a very yellowish grey. It's just doing something for my brain, and I'm just like, I'm so into it. So yeah, that's kind of my main whip. It is, oh my God, when I was doing when all of the stitches were on the needle and I was doing the rounds where it was like raglan stitch and then sleeve and then raglan stitch and basically a raglan, and doing it flat, it was very tedious. But now that I'm just working the body, it's a lot better. And I know I don't have much of the body before, like under the sleeve, before I start into that hip. So it feels, and then I can do like the very interesting part of like designing that. So yeah, so that feels good. I think that is all of my whips currently. I think that's everything. Don't have too many acquisitions. Yeah, again, I've just been looking at my stash and realizing quite how colossal it is, and just, you know, how much really beautiful yarn I have in there that I'm really excited to get to. And so I just really don't want to buy yarn unless I have to. Having said that, I did have a little break where I was like, oh, feeling very nostalgic about having lived in Ireland for so long, and I went into This Is Knit in Dublin to buy another skein of the Samia, because I only bought one initially. I just bought one of each colour and then I ran out, and then I did treat myself. Always kind of said that like the hand-dyed mohairs in This Is Knit, I've always kind of just wanted to treat myself to some of those eventually. I did have a very different colour in mind, but this is what I ended up just really vibing with. Sorry, my hair is driving me crazy at the moment. I'm growing out my fringe, so it's just insane. As a little memento of Ireland, I got this Townhouse Yarns Abbey lace, Abbey of, I'm assuming, Abbey Street. They are, I don't know actually, I don't know what the story is. I'm assuming Dublin based. But yeah, they're a very big feature of the This Is Knit like wall of hand-dyed yarns, and you know, every time you go in you just see them and fall in love. This is a 420 meter mohair 50 gram skein, so pretty standard. It's actually 36% silk, so it's quite a high silk content. I'd say it's, maybe that's why the yardage is so generous. I'd say it's probably quite thin compared to most mohairs. And this is the shade Bonfire. The lighting in here is insane. This is how dark it is in the middle of the frickin' day. I don't know how well you can see all of the sort of tones in here. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It's so nice. Like a purpley, like purple into burgundy, very dark base. The other one is probably a bit darker. This one's probably a bit darker, but this one has more of the sort of like pops of color in it. Yeah, it goes from like sort of like a fuchsia, like a pink purple to like a purple to more of a burgundy brown. And then it has some accents of like red and brown, and then this particular like gold accent. So yeah, it's very autumnal. It's very like moody. I only got 2 skeins. I think they only had 2 skeins left, so it's all I could get anyway. I originally was planning on doing a blouse number 1 light, which I only found out recently is like 2 strands of mohair on 6mm. And I definitely thought it was not that, which I think is like such a good pattern for using up this kind of like quantity, because it's not quite like in the upper end of meterage where you'd need 3, depending obviously on your size. But I don't know how much I would wear that. Oh yeah, and obviously holding it with another strand of mohair. I was thinking maybe like a very dark brown to sort of make it lean less purple and more brown. I think I just might try and make, God, it's petite knit again, but the new cross. I keep forgetting the name of it. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's beautiful. It's a little bit of a rip-off of the Clematis sweater, I think, but I can't be mad at her. It's really beautiful, and doing it in 2 strands of mohair is genius. I think I would probably do a bigger gauge, so like maybe knit this on like a 5mm, so I could make sure that I'd have enough held double. Not this held double with another strand. Anyway, that's the plan. This is the only thing I bought. Other plans, very briefly, I should probably film like a winter plans video, because I do have a lot of things that I'm excited to cast on. I've got some color work that I'd really like to do. I think this is the year that I make the daughter jumper that I've been yearning for ever since I think daughter was a thing. I think this is one of their first jumpers. They don't make it anymore. Yeah, I want to make this. I don't think it's that hard. It looks like intarsia and stripes. And then another thing I do really want to make, I was kind of thinking about like hero pieces, things that I want in my wardrobe that are like more complex. Thinking about my 2 last successful cast-offs where, you know, it's like this, it took a really long time. Same with the Simone Rocha black cardigan, it took a really, really long time, but it's such a good staple. I'd really love to make quite a, again, dense gauged, but like bigger gauge cardigan that's quite like bulky, not too bulky, maybe like a 6mm cut, but where you can really see that stitch definition. Cardigan that's like in an off-white, so go with everything, but then is patterned or has like, I mean for me it'll be duplicate stitch, but just in general has this like little patchwork bit of interest. I'm thinking of like the Loewe jumpers. I'm thinking about, I don't know, like that guy that made the tattooed like jumper. I'd really like to first knit the cardigan and then sort of add some very like personal, colorful, almost like vintage elements to it that I feel like could really add to everything else you wear it with. So I think I'm going to use my campus. Seen any of my videos before, you probably know about me talking about this campus yarn. It's a Swedish yarn brand. The place I bought it in said it was like primarily for weaving. It's like not traditionally a hand knitting yarn, I don't think, but people do use it. And it's a very, very affordable, more of like an unknown, Nordic knitting brand, like not like the Rauma or the Sandnesgarn or, you know, all of your traditional Nordic commercial yarns. This one's a bit less known. It's so affordable, and I'm just obsessed with it. It's like, I don't know what it is about this weight, the fluffiness of it, how sheepy it is. Like there's crack in this, and I'm obsessed with it. I bought some in like 4 different colors. I've already knit one thing out of it. Always ready to use more of it. I'm like, I'll use it in anything. So this is Campus in off-white. It's a sport weight, and I'm gonna hold it with that We Are Knitters wool mix, cotton merino blend. And I feel like the cotton is going to give me that like heft and that weight that I kind of want. And so that's a sport and a DK held together. Probably do it on 6mm. It'll be quite dense. That's my plan. I need to swatch for that, obviously, figure out what pattern I'm going to use as a base. And yeah, but this is sort of my next big plan. But I if, as you can see by my works in progress, I really need to like start finishing some things instead of just casting on. But sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures and desperate cast-offs. I will also film an update on everything I've been sewing. So that's coming. I also really want to do a video going through some of my older knits because there's a lot that I don't wear, and there's quite a few that I want to de-stash or sort of either completely frog or maybe sell, or just maybe just generally get some advice on. I kind of took everything out of my winter storage for, you know, my knit pieces, like the heavier knit pieces, and I was like, Jesus, like everything I knit last year I don't wear, I'm not excited to wear. Not everything, but like a lot of the things that I knit last year, and I just have like a lot of stuff that I'm holding on to that I don't think is a good use of space. So that might actually be the next video that I film and upload. And then yeah, finally the life update. So I'm sure most of you who have been around for a while know that I had been talking a lot about my upcoming wedding, which was planned for September of this year. And of course, because I've been making, you know, sewing videos, I was sewing my own wedding dress, and I'd been posting lots of sort of frequent updates and talking about it a lot. So I'm sure you're all like, hey, what's going on? I just want to preface this conversation by saying, you know, I know that nobody's owed an explanation, and that, you know, I don't have to sort of apologize, and that this is, you know, this is like YouTube at will, and it's not, you know, we're not in some kind of contract with each other. I know all of those things, and thank for the people that have already said those things. Thank you so much. But yes, I do want to just talk about it because I think it's weird if you don't. I also think that sometimes if you don't disclose enough details of what's going on with you, then people tend to assume, and it's nobody's fault. It's like the way that the human brain is wired, that we, you know, we're biased towards the negative. I think people tend to assume things about your life that may be more negative than they actually are, or more dramatic than they actually are. I think everyone loves a bit of drama. So yeah, I just want to be as honest as I can and protect everyone. And also, you know, I don't mind if people assume things about me on my own channel because I chose to say those things. I don't mind that, but because this involves 2 people and more people than that, I don't want anyone to assume anything about them. So that's my like responsibility. So serious. I also really didn't want to do that thing where like I profit off of the situation and I'm like, I don't know, using it as clickbait. Like I joked, and I'm still considering. I think I did a few mock-ups of some really ridiculous clickbait thumbnails. I'm like, where have I been? I'm not trying to do that, but at the same time, I think it's weird to just come back and like not talk about any of it ever again. So yes, so I did not end up getting married to my partner, and we have now split up. It's through no fault of his. It was entirely my decision. I was the one who decided to call off the wedding. I did so approximately 2 months before, which is not ideal. I'm well aware. It was my decision. I was feeling very uncertain, and I needed to sort of come through and figure out what those feelings were, and that resulted in us splitting up. We're still very good friends. He's a wonderful person. Yeah, I just don't want anyone to assume anything bad about the situation. That's not about me. Currently, I'm looking into moving away from the house that we own together, and yeah, just sorting through a lot of that stuff. It's complicated, as you can imagine. I have been very sort of conflicted about where to go from here for a while. My initial plan and desire was to stay in Ireland. I have some form of Stockholm syndrome when it comes to Dublin. I think it's a very difficult place to live in when you're not really well set up, like owning a house and having a mortgage, advantageous, what's it called? Interest rate. Dublin really beats you down. If I can illustrate my point in any way, if I go to daft.ie, which is the main rental place for Ireland. In 2022, it's increased since then. In 2022, there were 2 million people in Dublin. And yeah, there are currently, right now, as I'm looking at this, 800 properties to rent. No filters, all price ranges, etc. Total for the entire city. Well, if I filter by pets allowed, there's 80 properties, and I can tell you right now about 70 of those are out of my price range, and most people's price range, unless they're making more than 100,000 a year. I think I've just kind of been muscled out, and I think I just really need to accept that if a place doesn't want you, then maybe you should go. It's so terrible to say it that way. Anyway, so for a long time I was looking for properties in Dublin, and that's sort of the why it's taken me so long. I've been looking for a place for a very long time, but I haven't had much luck. Then at the same time, I was pursuing approval with my work to move to the UK, specifically to London, and that's where, my sister lives very close to Oxford, and so does my mum. So yeah, I've got some family in the UK. I've always been a little bit resistant to move to the UK. I think there's a little bit of an Irish-British clash, and I think I've definitely taken that on, but it's weird because I have a British passport. Anyway, these are all tangents, but I am right now planning to move to the UK. I've had approval from my work to move and work there remotely, which is great. I'm currently flat hunting. All of that to say, I'm moving to London. I don't know a single person in London. I used to. I've known a lot of people that have lived in London, but not any currently. So if you're based in London and you want to hang out, please let me know. If you have any good knit nights, or just any recommendations or anything, I would love to hear them. It's a new frontier that's hopefully going to be happening around November, December time. I'm going to try and keep you updated on here as much as I can, but yeah, there might be a bit of disruption as I move all of my earthly possessions to another country, which thankfully is not that far. If it was further, I think I'd be more panicked, but yeah, it's just a lot of work to do. Hello, Editing Nadia here. Just popping in to mention very quickly, because I've got to mention it on the clip, that I do still have my wedding video playlist live on YouTube. I don't plan to take that down currently or to unlist it, but I'm not going to continue with that series, obviously. I may revisit my wedding dress project in other forms later on. I think maybe just right now it's not the best time to do it, but I do want to sort of finish some of the pieces that I was making. Certainly, I think like the overlays or all of the pieces that weren't so bridal inspired, I will still make those at some point. But yeah, I will not be continuing that series in its current state, but I will leave the videos live just in case anyone wants to rewatch them at some point. Yeah, okay, that was all I wanted to say. Thanks so much. So yes, that's the update. It's big, I know. That's basically what's occupied most of my summer. I've also been away a couple of times. I was in Toulouse for my sister's wedding, and then I went back to France to hang out with my family for a bit. So I've had a couple of breaks away, which has been nice. I went to Madrid to see one of my closest friends. Yeah, I've been about, but mostly just sort of trying to navigate all of this. So yeah, please excuse my absence. I know I don't need to explain, but I think having an elephant in the room is not a fun thing. Oh yeah, I think I mentioned that I had filmed a yarn haul that I never posted from Porto and from Denver, and I think there was some like drops in there as well. There was a bunch of different stuff, but it was like kind of a cumulative yarn haul. If anyone's still interested in that, I can definitely like edit it and post it as like a bonus. I'll probably cut quite a bit because I'm sure, I don't know, a lot of it's maybe not that relevant anymore. I don't really know. If you want to see that, if you've been waiting for that yarn haul and you want to know, maybe I'll just like post a private link and you can watch it at your own leisure if you were dying to sort of catch up with me on that. Thank you for sticking around. Hopefully this video isn't terribly long. I've also been reading a lot, but maybe let's do that at a later date because I feel like this is long enough of an update already. Yeah, I've read quite a few really good books. I finished Authority, 5 stars. I read Small Boat, also 5 stars. I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. It was meh. I didn't love it. I read Shuggy Bane, really enjoyed that. A better version of A Little Life, I think. So they're sort of in a similar vein in that, you know, there are lots of traumatic things, descriptions of trauma, and also they're like gay stories. So I think they're put in the same box quite often, but I much preferred Shuggy Bane to A Little Life. I think it's not gratuitous. Clara and the Sun, something I've been wanting to read for a very long time, was a bit disappointed by. I can say no bad things about Kazuo Ishiguro, but I don't think it hit the way I wanted it. I think I bigged it up in my head. I think that's on me. Let's go to my Goodreads. Feel free to follow me on Goodreads. I listened to Night Bitch. Loved that. That was good. Small Things Like These. Very quick read. Very, very good. Just trying to up, you know, my book count for the year. I read The Memory Police. I was a bit iffy about that. I've read a lot of like similar sci-fi type things, and I don't know. I'm not sure this one hit the way I wanted it to. Born, I liked, but was not as good as I find other Jeff Vandermeer stories. Yellowface, really enjoyed. I listened to that. I'm thinking of Ending Things. I gave this a 3, but I actually think it's a 2. I would not read that again. I finished I Who Have Never Known Men. 100% recommend. Did fall a little flat for me, again, because I read a lot of sort of speculative fiction, like almost like feminist speculative fiction. So I think it hit on a lot of things that I'm already reading a lot. I don't know if it did it, but it's very haunting. It stayed with me a lot. So yeah, it's a 5 star, even though, I don't know, I didn't love it whilst I was reading it. Does that make sense? I read Crying in H Mart. I cried. Only want to eat Korean food for the rest of my life. Yeah, and I finished Authority and it was amazing. I loved it. I loved Annihilation for different reasons. Authority is like a really boring office book, and then it just hits you like a freight train at the end. And yeah, I think it's one of those ones where you're like, you you know when the author does that thing where you're like, they say something and you're like, oh, I don't understand that, but I guess I'll come back to it later, and I'm sure it's just me not understanding that. And then you actually weren't supposed to understand it, but then it's revealed later that it was actually really relevant. Just so good, so good. I don't own the third book, but I really want to buy it and read the next one, but I'm sort of pacing myself because I just love Jeff Vandermeer so much. So that's everything I have read. I'm currently reading All Fours, which I'm enjoying a lot. It's kind of irritating, but it's a really good read. My next up, I want to read Frankenstein. Yeah, Mary Shelley. Yeah. I want to read Frankenstein in October, because last October I think I read The Haunting of Hill House, and that was a really perfect October read. Was that last year or was that the year before? I don't know. I like to read spooky things in October. It just makes me feel super cozy. So yeah, next up is Frankenstein. I've never read it. I'm super excited. Okay, that was my very quick book corner. I will happily expand on all of those reviews if anyone is the slight bit interested. If you want to talk about any book in particular, just write in the comments and I will regurgitate all of my thoughts, because there's way too many to sort of list here. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. This one was a hard one to film, as I'm sure you can imagine, but I'm really happy to be back. Thank you for having me back. If this is your first time here, I'm so sorry. Thank you for watching till the end. And yeah, I think I better go. Okay.